Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Popco the Writers. Tonight,
Two thumbs up on that one.
Tonight we are going to talk about the season finale or series finale, depending on how you look at it, of Miss Marvel, which has got a lot of stuff for us to talk about. But Jim just suggested right before we got going that we should watch the Rings of Power trailer or teaser, which I have not seen. So this is going to be a complete fresh reaction for me. Jim has seen it, but we are going to watch that together. So let me bring that up. Share screen.
I'm always thinking.
Yep. Okay, so now we're going to start this up, and as long as we say a few things occasionally, we've got our logo up there in the corner, and we're on screen, we can do this.
There was a time when the world was so young.
Galadriel.
Yet in a sunrise.
I was thinking of young Kate Blanchett.
But even then,
Good, you should.
there was light.
Can we turn the tree down a little? It's hard to sleep.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Elves have forests to protect. Dwarfs their mines.
Khazad-dûm.
Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other. We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
They're not skimping on the scenic look.
No, yeah, there's a lot of that.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not.
Is that supposed to be Galadriel and Elrond?
Yes.
What I have seen.
Good casting. You see it in the eyes.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end not just of our people, but all peoples. I am sorry, but that time is here. The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it. This could be the beginning of a new era.
Okay. That looks pretty good to me.
It's proven to be somewhat controversial among Tolkien fans.
Any particular reason? What's the...
It's funny. When I first saw it, I watched it off of YouTube, and I read the comments underneath, which is always a mistake, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like 95% negative. The comments, So, and it was funny because it wasn't necessarily specific Tolkien issues or problems, but everybody's saying that it looked cheap. That it looked like a TV, I don't know, like a TV production or something like that. But I actually thought that the production values looked pretty good. But
Yeah.
Who am I guess. I don't know.
I mean, there's no big name stars in it, but I wouldn't want big name stars. I don't want to look at somebody and go, oh, that's this person. I want to look at him and go, okay, who is that going to be?
No. This morning I watched an examination video by a guy that I guess is considered a pretty good, big Tolkien scholar, and it was nice because he wasn't really interjecting a lot of opinion only opinion as far as who he thought the characters were or where a scene was set in. And it was fascinating because he was digging down pretty deep and he was pulling out character names that are more or less, kind of obscure.
Mhm.
If you don't know the Silmarillion or any of the other stuff, about the first age, second age, and all of that, it was pretty deep dive stuff. What was interesting is there was a shot where the one they're calling them Harfoots, but they're basically hobbits,
Mhm.
which I don't. That's a part of it I don't really care about. It's like supposedly the hobbits weren't involved in anything at all during the time that this is set, and why they're being addressed we don't know. But there's a scene where the one says we're safe and everything's fine, and then they look up and there's a big like meteor that streaks through the sky and then lands, explodes. There's a guy that comes out of the meteor, and we don't have any idea at this point who that character is, but the speculation is that it's Sauron.
Ah.
So this could be telling the story. I guess this is set at a point where Sauron's former master, Morgoth, has been vanquished. He's been taken care of. But now this is going to be supposedly the rise of Sauron to power when he first, came to his own power. And there's a point where in what's known in Tolkien that Sauron comes back or goes back to Middle Earth or comes to Middle Earth or whatever, but he's trying to worm his way into with everybody in a pleasant form. It's like he's, I guess he's like supposed to be like Lucifer, fair of form but a fallen angel and all that kind of stuff. So they think that might, now if that's true, then that's really kind of interesting, because my only other guess was that it's like Gandalf. Supposedly Gandalf has no part in this whole thing that we know of so far.
I was thinking it was Tom Bombadil pissed off he didn't make it in any of the other movies.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm a huge Tom Bombadil fan, but I think that they are just trying to completely avoid any use of Tom Bombadil because he's basically like God,
Yeah. I am curious now. I'm getting the impression that this isn't necessarily adapting any specific story. It's basically going through some of the history that was laid out in the stories, like the Silmarillion, stuff like that.
Yeah, if I understand it correctly, they're using things that Tolkien did talk about, but trying to kind of weave in between all of that. It looks like some of the bigger things are happening that we do know happen, but then it's also I think they're inventing some really low level basic man on the street type characters, as our insertion point. I think it can be very interesting because if I understand this correctly, that the least that Tolkien actually wrote about, or I think, was the Second Age. So I think that's why they said, well, let's go there. That's fertile ground. We can play around a little bit more in there.
As long as they don't contradict anything, they should be fine.
Exactly right. And the guy in the one video that I watched was saying that. He said he was pretty open. He said as long as some of these characters get to certain points and do the certain things that we already know. He said, however they get there, that's tell me the story. He said but they need to be at certain points at certain times and do certain things. And he said, and if that happens, it's fine. The only thing is that we were told that they're going to condense time because for a TV show that was important because the human characters will all die off and the elves and the dwarves will keep going. They said so that they don't have to keep recasting the human character or keep bringing it. They've kind of condensed some, events so that they're closer in time than, instead of like 1,000 years apart, they may be only, 10 years apart or something like that.
Yeah, I remember reading. I didn't read Tolkien before I saw the movies. I read it after because it just never popped up on my radar when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the movies and then reading the books and just amazed at the passage of time in the books and how they don't really contradict it in the movies, but they kind of gloss over, like, Gandalf was gone for like 40 years before he came back to the Shire about the ring. It was like, wait, that was 40 years?
Yeah. And plus, and he has been around for, many, many, many years, more than, and the elves, of course, are thousands of years old. This takes place thousands of years before what we see in Lord of the Rings, and the Galadriel is still there. She's only a little bit older, when we see her So do you think you're going to watch this?
I think I'll definitely give it a shot.
Okay.
I
that's me too. I'm gonna pick. It's starting in September. I'm gonna pick up Amazon Prime at that point. I don't actually have Amazon Prime Video right now, but or whatever it is. I'm actually going to get it and do this. I feel like I'll make the investment and see how it goes.
Yeah. See, I'm willing to give things a try a lot. Like I tried the that new Chris Pratt series on Prime called The Terminal List.
Yeah.
And really did not like the first episode. Now I've talked to my producer on my other show, has actually watched the whole thing and said it gets better after the first episode.
Okay.
And this wasn't because it was bad acting. It felt to me like it was really bad writing.
Sure.
They went out of their way to establish the main character as an unreliable narrator, so much so that you spend the whole episode trying to figure out if anything is actually real. In doing so, you don't get into the actual story.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to give it another couple episodes to see if it does get better. Because like I said, JD said it does, and it's based on a good book and all this other stuff. But that first episode, it's really tough to get through.
That's me and Stranger Things. I watched the first 3 episodes and gave up on it because I didn't care for it at all. And then, of course, I say that on Facebook and everybody's jumping all on me saying, oh no, you have to stick with, and I said, no, come on. Yeah, it's like if they do not grab me in 3 episodes, come on. I'm not going to keep hanging around. I
gave it 1.
They really should have been 1. Yeah.
I gave it 1 and just felt like there was so much. I don't understand the nostalgia for the 80s that's out there. Yeah. I was 10 years old in 1980, so I was that exact age going through that, and none of that was what I remember. It's like the hyper realistic version of the 80s, where it's like all the cliches and stuff have been put in. It's like, no, that wasn't what it was.
I was 15, so I was a little bit, older, and I said that at that point. I said, I think it's really appealing to my younger friends who were a little bit younger than me at that point. Now I love 80s music and still do.
Yeah.
But I was in high school from 79 to 83, and I wasn't getting any of that. I thought it was a somewhat interesting about this upside down, or it was back in those first 3 episodes, it was the kid disappeared, and then he was somewhere else, and he was able to communicate through the lights in the house, whatever. That was the only thing that actually mildly interested me. So I'm glad everybody likes it, and I'm glad that it's run 4 seasons now.
Yeah, it's going to do 1 more.
Yeah.
All I know is I look at the kid with the really bad bowl haircut, and I'm thinking, yeah, that wouldn't exist
Yeah,
because
right.
he would get so picked on that he would cut his own hair after a while.
Hey, speaking of other new series on the way that intrigue me is they started filming on the like the Godzilla series, and I'm saying Godzilla because it's like the MonsterVerse,
Yeah.
Series. And that actually has kind of intrigued me, and that might be something that, because I enjoy the movies for the most part, and I think I might actually like to look into that when that comes out.
All right. We could definitely give that a shot, talk about it on the show. I've got Lisa's son is a huge Godzilla fan. It would almost be fun to bring him on for it. He's 78 now, but
Okay.
he grew up a huge fan of that. So
Right.
yeah, that's his two things: Godzilla and Jurassic Park 3 toys. He collects them.
Okay.
It's like very specific.
Yeah, well, any niche in a storm.
Yep, yeah, that's true. So now, before we got going and did the Rings of Power thing, I was a few minutes. Normally, I try to give you the link about 10 minutes still, and I was a few minutes late because I came across a video on YouTube that was have you ever seen The Rain by Creedence Clearwater Revival?
Mm-hmm.
But it's one they shot in 2018 as part of a 50th anniversary thing. They did a bunch of videos.
Okay.
What struck me as odd is that there were 3 people in the video, and 2 of them were Jack Quaid and Erin Moriarty,
Okay.
who were both in The Boys
Mm-hmm.
as, boyfriend, girlfriend, Huey and Starlight. And I don't know, and I cannot figure out if they were filming The Boys, because The Boys didn't come out till 2019, and this was done like early, mid 2018. So I don't know if they were working on this together and, hey, let's go do this video, or if they met on this video and suddenly they were in a show together.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because they wouldn't otherwise you would wonder why they put those 2 together in a video.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said this came officially from the CCR
Yes.
people, or whatever you want to call it?
It's their official, and it lists like directors, all the crew, and the cast. But it's like, and it's just this weird little video about the 2 of them and another girl who I can't remember her name, but she was in the OA and Little Women. So it's another good actress. But
I think it's something you need to look into now. I think it's a mystery.
I'm curious now.
Yeah. Well, but then again, they could have been filming 20. I mean, yeah, actually, stuff is filmed like sometimes years before.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID. Obviously, that was done before that. But even still, stuff is filmed. You should really look and see and find out if anybody has exactly when The Boys started filming.
Yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, I saw that. I'm like, that looks like Jack Quaid. And as I'm walking around, like, and that looks like Erin Moriarty. And then I looked it up. I'm like, yeah, that's them. Interesting.
Life's little mysteries.
Yeah. So yeah, that just kind of threw me off a little bit. Maybe I'm a couple minutes late, but we got on.
Things that make you go,
That's old school, man.
Sorry.
I actually
have you figured that out, that I'm kind of old school?
I went to tapings of the Arsenio Hall show.
Okay. Is that
there is actually footage of when he comes up in the audience and he does a little finger touch thing. Yeah. He and I touching fingers. You can see it on the footage.
Now, see, people, your fans are going to have to find that footage now,
when I was in high school, we used to do a lot of our theater group would raise money by being paid audiences.
Love it.
Yeah. So we went and did a lot of tapings and stuff.
Love it.
The
That's a
one
great idea. Wow.
we did Night Court at one point.
Oh, I would have loved that.
The episode with the Shatner 2000, the wig that Bull gets, and we actually got to be in the audience for the pilot episode of, and it had two different names. It had the name we knew it under and the name it aired under. I think it was called My Sister Sam when it aired.
Oh, I know that.
That's the actress who got murdered, Rebecca.
Yeah, the one what was Pam Dauber's connection? They were friends, or
she was the older sister in that show.
Right, that's it. Okay, yeah, yep.
Yeah, but I think at the time we did it, we saw it. It was called Picture This because it was going to be about a photographer. I think Pam Dauber played a photographer or something.
Yeah,
but then it became My Sister Sam, and so that was kind of weird to suddenly go, oh wait, that girl's dead.
Hey, speaking of Marky Post, I just literally yesterday discovered that she did an unaired pilot of Electra Woman and Dyna Girl.
Oh my god!
Did you know about this?
I did not.
Okay, and I guess you can watch it on YouTube. And it was in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like a down and dirty, Watchmen type of, a dissection of superhero-ness. Like it was the complete opposite of the original show. But
wow.
She's an aging, alcoholic, floozy Electra Woman who a young fan finds her and coaxes her back into the saddle again, and that young fan becomes the new Dyna Girl because Electra Woman's husband ran off with the original Dyna Girl. Sorry, little digression there, because as soon as you say Night Court, I said to myself, I would have loved to have been in the same room with Marky Post.
What's funny is it took me a long time to make the connection. The actress on before Marky Post was Ellen Foley.
Okay.
And Ellen Foley, besides being an actress, is known as a singer and is the singer that worked with Meatloaf on Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
I think I've heard this one too. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm also, let's go ahead and get all the Night Court references.
Okay.
I'm listening to Mel Brooks's biography, his autobiography he put out. I think it's called All About Me.
Yeah. Yes. I'm familiar with it.
And he was talking about one of the shows that he was writing. I think it was your show of shows later when Imogene Coca went off on her own show. Mm-hmm. They brought in some of and Selma Diamond was one of the writers. And of course, she went on to be one of the bailiffs on that show, on Night Court. It's like, wow, I didn't know Selma Diamond was a writer. That's kind of interesting, So, all right, we are all over the place. Yeah, but let's get to Miss Marvel.
Oh, these digressions are so fun. Come on.
They are. No, I absolutely enjoy it.
Let's make Ms. Marvel fun then.
Yeah. I think it was interesting to see them go from, we got an entire episode in Karachi to an entire episode in the past where we get the family and then suddenly, boom, we're back in New Jersey and things are flying. And it is such a fast-paced episode. But I do love the fact that they give us that moment of her going to tell her family that she's this nightlight girl.
Yeah.
And they already know, and I love.
They already know it. Yeah.
I love the reaction of, "Oh my God, I never would have guessed." I just am absolutely in love with this family.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's what's going to make it maybe a little bit hard when when we go on to the Marvels, and I can't imagine them bringing the family along.
Actually, the family's listed as being in it.
But I'm going to guess that's going to be very quick, you know. But yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, I was thinking about the whole setup, just like you said, that we get the Karachi stuff, and then in the past, and then all of a sudden we're back in, you know. And I thought, okay, it's a strange kind of a layout of everything, but like Book of Boba Fett was a very strange layout. And that it's like that's what people sometimes want, because they say that Marvel Studios productions get very predictable about how they're set up. So what do? They try to shake it up, but then nobody's happy, and it's like, oh, it's so disjointed and all of that. I thought it was a really interesting way to do it, and this finale seemed long. I forgot to look at how many minutes it was. But there was a lot going on, you know, and it was kind of jam packed, with stuff. I have my one main criticism about it is I think the focus was really taken off of Kamala, kind of to the detriment of the episode. That, I mean, I realize it's about her, family and all of that, but I don't know. There were times where I said, "Whose show is this now?"
Yeah.
Again? It's like, do more Ms. Marvel stuff. I was glad that we finally got to the point where she's Ms. Marvel, but
yeah.
And then it's also, and I don't know if this is the way it is in the comic. It's to me, it's the old thing about too many people know her secret identity. And
I think the MCU doesn't care about secret identities.
I agree. I mean, I'm hoping that they can maintain it. I mean, again, that mask is not very much, but it could be suspension of disbelief. But as we go along, pretty much everybody in that episode knows who she is. But again, I thought it was very fun and very engaging. I felt good for everybody when she actually embiggens and actually says it too, for that matter. That they really were trying to make it look like she was stretching and doing all that, and the getting big and all of that, but yet still retaining the thing about the powers.
Yeah. I'm still wondering about damage control, because it seemed like we were making them the bad guy, and instead they just try to make that one agent the bad guy.
Yeah, and I can kind of see why they did that, because maybe they didn't truly want to go down the road of the government agency that's all bad and blah 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 blah, and they were really putting it on the shoulders of that woman. Even the head guy, who you dislike throughout this whole show for the most part, I actually was glad that he seemed honestly mad, very angry at his subordinate, and I cheered practically when he said, you are relieved of duty.
Yeah.
Right now. Get your ass back here, and that's it.
Yeah. I still think he's a scroll.
The warning was interesting. The warning at the beginning of the episode. Yeah, but it was filmed at a different time, and they would have had to scrap the entire episode if they didn't run with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a good time to stop putting things in schools, put showdowns in schools. Just, but
well, I'm going to guess that you're going to see very, very little of anything like that anymore. That might be the end of it right there.
Yeah. I did find it, but I do still think he's a scroll. But
okay.
There's a line in the early on which was almost so on the head when they're walking out of the Circle Q, and she says, "This is what happens when the wrong people get powers." And the agent next to her going, "What do you mean by wrong people?"
Mm-hmm.
And her response is, "Kids."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
We believe you, sure. It was a little bit right on the nose of, yeah, this girl's a problem.
So you think that agent is a Skrull? That the
Well, I think he's a Skrull. I think the head of the agency is a Skrull.
Oh, okay. What if he was? Would he? I guess he'd still be getting that mad about having his orders disobeyed and all of that.
Yeah, I think he's there trying to track down Kree. He's trying to use damage control to track down Kree sleeper cells.
Yeah,
I think this leads into the Marvels.
And now that you've said the magic word, that was interesting that we didn't get anything more about.
Yeah,
but I think they're holding that for the movie though too.
Yeah, well, I still think the nega bands or the bands are going to be Kree because of what happens at the end. That's kind of straight out of the old school.
It's
Captain
going
Marvel.
old school.
Captain Marvel, Rick Jones, but we'll get to the endings.
Yeah, or even Captain Marvel, Billy Batson.
Yep. True.
I was surprised we got that. I mean, I know you want to talk about it, some more, but I was surprised. I was a little surprised that we got that because I had convinced myself we weren't going to get that, and then all of a sudden
we're there now. Let's go ahead and talk about it. We get the post-credit scene,
You want to put the spoiler up?
Oh yeah, we get the post-credit scene, which is actually directed by the director of the Marvels.
You want to know why? I say it's my theory. I'm sure other people have said this. I'm thinking that is an actual scene from the movie, and it would because it certainly wouldn't be unusual to have that happen. We've had it happen how many different times before in the past with Marvel Studios productions, because we talked about this before, Dan, where things happen almost in real time with Marvel Studio production things. I can't imagine waiting like this happens and then we wait an entire year.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that like she's gonna end up in Kamala's bedroom and then we're gonna jump a year later.
Yeah.
That has got to be an actual scene from the movie. And then you saying that about it was directed by whoever directed the movie, that to me, that kind of cinches it right there.
Yeah. And I think that's how the parents are involved is that, I mean, just for people who haven't seen it yet, and don't mind spoilers, the brace, the bangle starts glowing. Suddenly, Kamala is turned into a swirl, thrown into the closet, and Carol Danvers in her newest Captain Marvel costume comes out.
Which is not that different, really. It didn't look.
Actually, it's quite a bit different from what I.
Well, you know what? I'm not the biggest Captain Marvel fan, so maybe I wasn't paying attention very much.
It was a little more form-fitting. It was darker blue, and it was much closer to color as the first Captain Marvel costume. She's had a bunch since then. But this is much, the red on the blue with the red trim. Mm-hmm. And then from the waist down, though, it was just all blue. The boots were blue. The pants were blue. There was no more red.
Okay.
So it was kind of an interesting change. And like I said, it was much more form-fitting, where the other one seemed a little bulkier.
Yeah, that I think I probably noticed. Hubba. You know what is interesting is the Easter egg videos that I watch. They were kind of when they kept talking about that scene and they kept repeating it. They kind of slowed it down. What it looks like is that when Kamala starts to go into the spin, she actually changes into Carol. It's Carol who gets thrown into the closet. If you look at it, it looks like she's already changed right before she goes through the door
Yeah.
into the closet, which was another interesting, thing. That the very first thing I thought was, okay, this is still supposed to be Kamala, that she just changed her shape, because I'm to understand that did happen in the comics.
It did. Yes. When she first,
I thought, no, there's no, then no, because it's obviously that it's Carol confused about where she's at, and
why there are pictures of her all over the walls.
And then I thought, oh, then like you said, we're going old school here.
Yep. And one of the producers of the series has come out to clarify that, yes, that is Carol Danvers. That is not Kamala taking Carol's form. So that is definitely Carol Danvers.
Okay.
Yeah. And the directors of the show and the producer, they didn't know that was coming. They didn't know what the end credit scene was going to be until they watched it.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Man, it's got to be a scene from the actual movie. And then this begs the question, is Kamala in the negative zone? The
negative zone, maybe the noir dimension. Maybe the noir is the new negative zone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It leaves a lot of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And how did they switch? Is the other Bengal wherever she's at now? I mean, it's a pretty interesting question. But I think the fact that we end with Carol in the apartment or in the house could explain why we see the parents, because she could be running downstairs and they're like, "Wait, what are you doing here?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that could be how they play in it, but don't know. That's going to be interesting to figure out.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to know if Carol and Kamala have not met at this point in the proceedings yet.
Yeah, I get the feeling they haven't.
Yeah.
And there's something ironic of the fact they can never be in the same place at the same time would be hilarious with how much obsessed Kamala is.
It would be kind of mean to the fans to not have the scene of them meeting, but I can't imagine that it will stay like that. So Carol's not wearing any, like, the bangle or anything at all in that scene, unless they CGI'd it out.
Right.
For that shot.
They might, or they hadn't CGI'd it in. Yeah. Which they'll do for the movie. So, yeah, I mean, but I thought that scene was pretty interesting because, I mean, I kind of thought we would get a connection in it, that we would get somebody appearing, whether Monica Rambeau or Carol Danvers. Yeah. But that still kind of threw me off, like, oh, they're going there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think we were going to go there because, and what's funny is when I saw the original previews for the show and we see her getting the bangle out of the attic, I thought that it was going to tie into Annette Bening's character of Marvell.
Exactly.
That maybe this was her house and, they sold it after she disappeared and this was stuff that was left in the attic. That's how I thought it was going to work out.
I was thinking along those same lines too. But I remember you saying that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. But no, then of course, let's go ahead and get to the other big thing.
It's interesting that we went to that credit scene first, when I think I've seen more people talking online about the first credit scene rather than the Carol Danvers one.
Yep. And this felt like a tack on because it felt like they had completely wrapped everything up. Bruno had put a letter in her locker, and she got her name and she was sitting in the light post, and it felt like, okay, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly 1 week later, so Bruno dropped off a letter, and then a week later he's still there.
Yeah.
That seems a little strange.
Yeah.
But and then of course, it's all there for him to tell her that, oh, you have a mutation in your genes. And if it wasn't just saying the word mutation enough, but they actually play the stinger from the X-Men animated series.
Now, I did not know that because I don't know if I've ever even seen that series before.
Oh, you don't know that tune is
So I had to find that out by looking at online comments. I thought that there was a chance that it was sort of saying Inhumans, but see, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't get the thing with the theme that it's like hammered it home.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's mutants. Now I'm not terribly fond of this moment because I'm still against the X-Men being part of the MCU, but I can't stop progress, I guess.
Well, that's the interesting thing is that first they did that stinger. They also did that in Doctor Strange when Xavier pulled up. You just hear that do.
Yeah.
But this isn't introducing the X-Men. It's just introducing mutants.
The idea of mutants.
And we should find out this week during the Hall H panel for Marvel what's going to happen with Black Panther. And are we introducing the first mutant, which is Namor?
Yeah.
So
I would say it is introducing the X-Men and not just the idea of mutants, because you could just say mutations and that means mutants. I think by specifically using that theme, it does say this is the first breadcrumb that will lead to the X-Men. I think that's what they're telling us.
Yeah. But how will we get them? And will it be in little tiny pieces, or are they just going to announce an X-Men movie? I think we'll get into little tiny pieces.
Yeah.
I think there were so many X-Men movies, and the last few were so bad that they're better off bringing the characters in other ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Again, I'm just not into it. I mean, it's going to happen whether I like it or not. I think it's just too huge, immense of a thing to now shoehorn it into the MCU, unless they're starting completely over, starting from scratch, and it'll be. But I have the same thing going with the Fantastic Four, which I'm starting to become more and more disillusioned with as we go along, especially with the recent talk about casting. There's a rumor of casting for the Fantastic Four movie, and
I really take the casting rumors with a grain of salt. Because it's like, oh, it's going to be John Krasinski. Oh, it's going to be Jason Segel as the Thing. Oh, it's going to be this Penn Badgley is the name I'm hearing now for Reed Richards, who I don't know who the hell he is.
Mm-hmm.
Or the new rumor is that Doctor Doom is going to pop up in Black Panther.
Yeah, I think I heard that one too. I don't know if they can at this point afford the ill will of not having Krasinski as Reed Richards, because I kept saying after we got that, it's like, oh, that's it. He's Reed Richards. They're not going to be so cruel as to suddenly give us somebody else after all of that. But I don't know. Now I think there's a possibility that it could be that, and all they have to say is it's not. They don't look exactly alike from universe to universe, but I think so far we haven't seen anybody who doesn't look exactly like their universe counterpart.
No, you look at Loki. There's a bunch of different Lokis from different multiverses.
Yeah. I'm stupid. You're right. Yep. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting to me because I don't know what they're going to do. And they gave us Krasinski, and it might have just been, this is what the fans want. We're going to throw it in there. Krasinski wasn't even. Reed Richards, I don't think was even part of the original Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I said, it was going to be Balder the Brave.
But But why go out of your way to do that at the last minute?
Because
something that they knew that so many people wanted, and knowing how fans are, and then say, oh, that was just a one-time thing, and I don't know. I mean, you know what? I have a little bit of hope still left. I think that time is marching on, and this Fantastic Four movie seems to be like nothing's happening on it. And then I'm convinced that they're going to play around with it so bad that it's going to be something that we're not going to recognize, even though that's what the problem has been all along with Fantastic Four movies, is that they've changed them.
Yeah.
Changed things too much that, in the beginning I thought, okay, we are finally going to get the Jack Kirby and Stan Lee Fantastic Four that we've all deserved all along. But I don't know. I'm getting more and more like where I don't even really care much anymore. It's like either do this movie or don't do this movie. And
there are so many rumors right now. There's a rumor that Fahey is talking to Spielberg about directing it.
Yeah, I heard that.
And it's like, really? That seems odd. I mean, unless Spielberg
think of that.
Unless Spielberg just happens to be a huge Fantastic Four fan. Well, I can't see what,
He could be. I mean, I don't know if I've ever. George Lucas is a big comic book fan, or was a big comic book fan. I don't really ever remember hearing specifically that Spielberg is, but I don't know. I don't know if Spielberg would want to have to play the game with
Marvel.
I think it would have to be that he and Fahey are just the closest buddies ever, and they're so close that Spielberg would do anything at all, for Kevin, and Kevin would do anything for Steven. And I mean, it could be interesting. I don't know. I mean, being that Steven is old school now, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, we've had big time directors before, not that big, but we've had big.
Right. Yeah. Normally they like to go to these newer guys, or they brought in Sam Raimi, but that was kind of a unique thing, and they let Raimi do a lot of Raimi stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking too. I look at remember that Kenneth Branagh directed the Thor movie. I mean, did you ever really think that something like that would happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I love that one. That's my favorite Thor movie. So
I remember you saying,
Yep. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of rumors going around now. There's another rumor that says another superhero team is going to be introduced in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and one of the ones they think it might be is we might meet the Fantastic Four, because there's been a lot of rumor that maybe they started in the 60s, ended up in the quantum realm, and they're going to come to modern times. That's why we haven't seen them. In which case, the Fantastic Four movie could be set back in the past, set in the 60s, which could be fun for Spielberg to make.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, see, I could get on board with that, especially after a Captain America movie set in the 40s.
Yeah,
and you and I both know about all the in the history of Marvel Studios book that they debated. Like there were people saying there's no way you can have an entire movie set in the 40s. No one is going to sit still for that whatsoever. And then look, that 98% of that movie is set in the 40s. That would be interesting because there's some connective tissue between the character of Ant-Man and the Fantastic Four. One of the very first crossovers with Marvel Universe characters in the Fantastic Four comic book was with Ant-Man. If I'm not mistaken, it's the Hulk first, and then I think Ant-Man was not long after that he guest starred in there. Yeah. So, wow, I love that rumor. I'm all for that rumor now.
Yep, I have a feeling we'll find out more next week, because Fantastic Four has been on the slate for a while, and if they do have a director, I think they'll announce it. And if they do have any casting, but
It's again, if not, then it to me it feels like that movie's just so far down the road that it doesn't even really mean much anymore, unless it's the culmination of Phase 4.
which that's what I think it is. It's the last movie in Phase 4.
Okay.
So, and it would make sense. It's in the place of the Avengers because they don't have a current Avengers team.
Right.
So, so it wouldn't. I love the idea of them being in the quantum realm and coming into the future, but I also like the idea of the movie being set in the 60s, and we get that story of how they get in the quantum realm.
See, now I'm starting to say to myself, is the Fantastic Four so huge that you can't insert them into somebody else's movie without completely taking that movie away from its stars?
I think you can do it if you do it in a minor way.
But how can you do the Fantastic Four in a minor way?
Well, think about
especially at this point. Especially at this point where we've waited for almost 15 years now for the Fantastic Four.
Okay, it's the third movie of Ant-Man. And you look at third movies, they tend to, the third Captain America movie was Civil War.
But we already knew all those characters for the most part, other than Black Panther.
Okay, so what if Scott?
And you know what? There's a complaint out there that is just an Avengers movie that they called. But I don't think that movie was robbed. I don't think Captain America was robbed in that movie. I still think it's a Captain America movie.
And Thor Ragnarok, it was a Thor Hulk movie.
I'm going to go back to what I said about what we already knew the Hulk.
Yeah.
But
what if
the intro 4 characters of the superhero team of the Marvel Universe?
But they're characters that have been on the big screen before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're introducing Nova.
I know, but again, it would be. But it's 4 actors we've never seen playing those characters before. I don't know. Dan. One part of me hopes that it's true, and that if anybody can do it, it's Marvel Studios can pull this off, because they pretty much pulled off everything. Who's the director of Ant-Man? It's
Peyton Reed.
Okay. Is there any chance then that they turn around and say, and Peyton Reed is directing the Fantastic Four movie?
I think that's possible because Peyton Reed originally pitched a Fantastic Four movie to them before he got the Ant-Man gig.
I think this is a done and done. I think this is what it is.
And I look at it this way. You've got the character of Janet, who spent all the time in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
You're going to have Kang. So it could be Scott and Hope are down there, and they need backup. And Janet says, there is this group that's working down there as part of the resistance. I worked with them a few times. Go here, you can find them. And when they get there, it's the Fantastic Four.
And you think that if they were around in the 60s, then were they the Fantastic Four out in the real world in the 60s, you think?
It's possible, or it could be their first adventure ended them up in the negative zone.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So they would have become a big deal. I go back to Iron Man, and I still feel like there wasn't, other than Captain America, there really wasn't anything like Iron Man, before Iron Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know. I'm still hoping for an Invaders movie, so who the heck am I, Right?
I'd love an Invaders movie.
Yeah.
But I look at it this way. Get my train of thought back. Your bad guy for Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, is Kang.
Mm-hmm.
Kang seems like really a high-level villain for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Like, out of their range.
Yeah.
So...
And he does have a lot of involvement with the Fantastic Four. Kang has become one of those villains that he's everybody's villain, even though he's technically an Avengers villain. But yeah, I mean, he's so ingrained with the FF through many different comic book stories. So
it makes a sense in a lot of ways. That without it almost doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
How does Scott and Hope take on Kang?
That could really bump up the Ant-Man franchise after two movies that I enjoy, but no one really thinks about those movies. They're not really, high profile Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And as fun as they are, and I think that they were pretty well received. That would really bump up the status of an Ant-Man franchise.
And like I said, the third Marvel movie is the one where they throw the kitchen sink in.
Yeah. What was the kitchen sink in Iron Man 3? Come on.
All the armor.
Okay.
We saw armor we'd never seen before.
I know.
Different armors. Plus, they
I'm
introduced.
glad you reminded me of that because I'd forgotten about that completely.
we get Iron Patriot. We get the bait and switch Mandarin. We get Extremis.
Yeah,
they threw everything in there.
Yep.
Even Gwyneth Paltrow got powers for a bit.
Silver Centurion armor.
Yep.
Okay, I'll agree. Whatever.
Yeah, it's hard when they get. I mean, third movies are rare, but when they get to them, it's kitchen sink time.
Yeah. So wait, the third Avengers movie was what? Infinity War, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that was pretty big for a third movie.
Yep. So it's kitchen sink time. So expect big things for Quantumania.
So the third Doctor Strange movie is going to be even bigger than Multiverse of Madness, right?
Oh, that's a good question. If we'll get a third Doctor Strange movie.
Well, where does the story with him and Clea land?
Oh, yeah, you're right. That they do set that up, but that's pretty much him going back to the what is that area called? The dark realm.
The dark.
The dark dimension.
In the dark dimension. I don't. Is that what they're? Yeah, the dark dimension. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's the niece of Dormammu, and you get the sister, which Uma?
Yeah, Uma. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a lot of potential there.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah. Now, who directs it? I don't think you bring Sam Raimi back again.
Depends on how much fun he had.
Yeah.
But again, it's like how many years down the road is that going to be? And we see them take off together, and then we're going to jump how many years until that movie comes out? And if they've been, adventuring around, well, they could be working against the incursion, or incursions all that time.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind that the Marvel Universe is set 3 years ahead of us right now.
Correct.
So eventually it's going to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, that is our show. That went quick. No, that was a quick one, wasn't it? So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. And if I don't get to see Thor this week, which is still questionable, we will talk about Doctor Strange and finally have a good discussion about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness next week.
Okay.
So,
watch Thor. Go to see Thor. Come on.
I'm trying.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you all. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
I will see you soon. Take care,